The lights of Manhattan sparkled like diamonds through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse. Marcus Thornhill stood near those windows, a glass of expensive wine in his hand, watching his guests with cold, calculating eyes. He was 35 years old, impossibly wealthy and completely bored with the people who surrounded him. Tonight was supposed to be special. A charity gala. Rich people pretending to care about poor people while wearing clothes that cost more than most families earned in a year. Marcus hosted these events 4 times a year. Not because he cared about charity, but because it was good for business. It made him look human, compassionate, all the things he definitely was not. Marcus, darling. A woman in a red dress approached him. Her name was Victoria, and she had been trying to get his attention for months. This piano is absolutely breathtaking. Wherever did you find it? Marcus glanced at the massive black piano that dominated the center of his living room. It was a Bösendorfer Imperial Grand, one of the finest pianos ever made. He had paid $4 million for it at an auction in Vienna. He bought it not because he played piano, but because owning rare and expensive things made him feel powerful. Austria, he said simply, taking another sip of wine. It's one of only a few in the world. Victoria touched the piano's glossy surface with one perfectly manicured finger. Do you play? Marcus laughed. It was a harsh sound without warmth. No, I don't have time for hobbies. Then why buy it? She asked. Because I can, Marcus replied. Because when people see it, they know exactly who they're dealing with. Other guests gathered around now, drawn by the conversation. There were about 50 people in the penthouse. All of them wealthy, all of them dressed in designer clothes, all of them wearing fake smiles. Marcus knew every single one of them would stab him in the back for the right price. That was how his world worked. Trust no one. Use everyone. Someone should play it, said Robert Chen, a real estate developer. It seems like a waste to have such a beautiful instrument just sitting here. I agree, said a woman named Caroline. She was married to a senator. Surely someone here knows how to play. Marcus felt a spark of interest. This could be entertaining. He set down his wine glass and raised his voice so everyone in the room could hear him. All right then, he announced. Let's make this interesting. If anyone here can play this piano in a way that truly moves me, I'll marry them. Right here, right now. The room fell silent. Then someone laughed nervously. Then everyone was laughing, thinking it was a joke. But Marcus wasn't smiling. I'm serious, he said. His voice cut through the laughter like a knife through butter. Play the piano. Move me. Marry me. Simple as that. Victoria's eyes lit up. You can't be serious, Marcus. I never joke about marriage, he said. Which was true. Marcus had never been married. He had never even come close. Love was a weakness, and Marcus Thornhill did not have weaknesses. But what if someone actually does it? Asked Robert. Marcus shrugged. Then I'll keep my word. But I doubt anyone here has the talent to truly move me. You're all too polished, too perfect, too fake. Several people looked offended, but no one left. They never did. Marcus could insult them all night and they would still stay, hoping to make connections, to network, to use each other, just like he used them. I'll try, said Victoria, stepping forward. She had taken piano lessons as a child. She was certain she could impress him. Marcus gestured toward the piano with a bored expression. Please entertain me. Victoria sat at the piano bench. She arranged her red dress carefully, making sure she looked beautiful. Then she began to play. She chose a Mozart piece, something she had learned years ago. Her fingers moved across the keys with practiced precision. Technically, it was good. Each note was correct. The tempo was right. But something was missing. Marcus watched her without expression. When she finished, she looked at him hopefully. That was lovely, Victoria, said Caroline. Boring, said Marcus flatly. Next. Victoria's face turned as red as her dress. She stood up quickly and walked away, humiliated. Several people whispered to each other, but Marcus didn't care. He had told the truth. The performance was boring. 3 more people tried. A banker who played Beethoven. A lawyer who attempted Chopin. A doctor who played some modern piece Marcus didn't recognize. Each time, Marcus found something to criticize. Too mechanical. No emotion. Trying too hard. Not trying hard enough. You're impossible to please, someone muttered. No, Marcus corrected. I simply have standards. None of you actually feel the music. You're just pressing keys in the right order. That's not art. That's mathematics. By 10 o'clock, people started leaving. The challenge had turned from entertainment into embarrassment. No one wanted to try anymore. No one wanted to fail in front of Marcus Thornhill. They made polite excuses and headed for the elevators, whispering about Marcus as they left. By 11 o'clock, the penthouse was empty except for Marcus and his assistant. Jennifer. That was brutal, Jennifer said, closing her laptop. She had been recording donations all night. You know people are going to talk about this. Good, Marcus said. Let them talk. Maybe next time they'll think twice before assuming they're talented. Jennifer shook her head. She had worked for Marcus for 5 years. She was used to his cruelty by now. I'm heading home. The cleaning crew should be here soon. Fine. Leave. After Jennifer left, Marcus poured himself another glass of wine and stood by the windows again. The city stretched out below him. Millions of lights, millions of people, all of them struggling and suffering and pretending to be happy. Marcus was above all that. He had money. He had power. He didn't need love or friendship or any of the things other people wasted their time chasing. But sometimes, late at night, when the penthouse was quiet and empty, Marcus felt something he refused to name. Something that felt suspiciously like loneliness. He pushed the thought away and finished his wine. At 11:30, he heard the elevator doors open. The cleaning crew had arrived. Marcus didn't bother looking. He paid a company to clean his penthouse 3 times a week. He never paid attention to who actually did the work. They were invisible to him like most people. Elena Rodriguez stepped out of the elevator carrying her supplies. She was 28 years old, though the exhaustion in her eyes made her look older. She wore the blue uniform of Sparkle Clean Services, and her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. This was her 3rd job of the night. After this, she had 2 more apartments to clean before she could go home. She set down her bucket and mop and looked around the enormous penthouse. It was beautiful, like something from a movie. Elena had been cleaning this place for 6 months, always late at night after the owner was gone. She had never actually met him. She preferred it that way. Rich people made her uncomfortable. They lived in a completely different world. Tonight, though, she could hear someone moving around in another room. Her supervisor had told her the owner might still be home. Elena's heart sank. She hated cleaning when people were watching. It made her feel even more invisible than usual. She started in the kitchen, wiping down the marble counters, washing glasses, throwing away the remains of expensive food. Food that could have fed her family for a week. Elena tried not to think about it. This was just a job. She needed the money. Her mother was sick. Medical bills were piling up. Her younger brother needed books for school. There was no time for anger or resentment. Only work. After 40 minutes, Elena moved to the living room, and that's when she saw it. The piano. Elena stopped breathing. She set down her cleaning supplies and walked toward it slowly, like she was approaching something sacred. She had seen this piano before, of course. She cleaned around it every time she was here, but she had never been alone with it, never had the chance to really look at it. It was the most beautiful instrument she had ever seen. Elena had played piano since she was 5 years old. Her grandmother had taught her. Back in their small apartment in Queens, they had an old upright piano that was missing several keys and was always slightly out of tune. But Elena had loved it. She had practiced for hours every day, dreaming of becoming a concert pianist, imagining herself on stage in a beautiful dress, playing for thousands of people. But dreams didn't pay bills. When her grandmother died and her mother got sick, Elena had to drop out of the music program at college. She had to work. First 1 job, then 2, then 3. The piano in her apartment gathered dust. She hadn't played in almost 2 years. There was no time, no energy, no hope. But now, standing in front of this magnificent instrument, something stirred inside her, something she thought had died a long time ago. She looked around. The penthouse was quiet. Whoever owned this place was probably in his bedroom. He wouldn't hear. He wouldn't know. Elena's fingers trembled as she reached out and touched the keys. They were cool and smooth under her fingertips. Perfect. She pressed down on middle C, and the sound that came out was pure and beautiful and heartbreaking. She glanced toward the hallway one more time. Still quiet. Still empty. Elena sat down on the bench. Just for a minute, she told herself. Just 1 song. Then she would finish cleaning and leave and never do this again. She closed her eyes and let her fingers find the keys. She began to play a song she had written herself years ago. when she still believed in things like dreams and happiness and possibilities. It was called Remaining Light, and it was about finding hope in darkness, about continuing to fight even when everything felt impossible. The music filled the penthouse. Elena forgot where she was, forgot that she was wearing a cleaning uniform, forgot about her mother's hospital bills and her brother's school fees and her own exhausted body. For the first time in 2 years, she was just Elena. Elena the musician. Elena the dreamer. Elena who still had something beautiful inside her, even after everything life had taken away. Marcus had been in his study reviewing contracts when he heard the music. At first he thought he had left something playing on his computer. But no, this was real. Someone was playing his piano. He stood up annoyed. The cleaning crew wasn't supposed to touch anything. He walked toward the living room, ready to fire whoever was stupid enough to touch his $4 million piano. But when he reached the doorway, he stopped. A woman sat at his piano. She wore a cleaning uniform. Her eyes were closed. Her fingers moved across the keys with a grace and skill that took his breath away. The music was unlike anything Marcus had ever heard. It wasn't polished or perfect. There were small mistakes, places where her fingers stumbled slightly. But it didn't matter. The emotion in the music was so raw, so real, so devastatingly honest that Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. This was what he had been looking for. This was what all those wealthy guests had failed to give him. Real feeling. Real art, real soul. Marcus stood frozen in the doorway. He had been about to interrupt, to yell, to assert his power and control. But he couldn't. The music held him captive. For the first time in years, Marcus Thornhill felt something other than boredom or anger or cold calculation. He felt moved. When Elena played the final notes, she held them, letting them fade slowly into silence. She opened her eyes and smiled slightly, a sad smile, remembering what it felt like to be alive. Then she turned around and saw him. Marcus Thornhill stood in the doorway, staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Elena's heart hammered in her chest. She was going to be fired. She was going to lose this job. How could she have been so stupid? "I'm sorry," she whispered, standing up quickly. "I shouldn't have touched it. I'm sorry." Marcus didn't respond. He couldn't. His mind was racing. This woman, this cleaner in her cheap uniform, had just done something impossible. She had moved him. She had fulfilled his challenge. And he had made a promise that had been recorded on phones, that was probably already on social media, that dozens of wealthy and powerful people had witnessed. "If anyone can play this piano in a way that truly moves me, I'll marry them." Marcus looked at Elena, really looked at her. She was beautiful in a tired, worn-down sort of way, dark eyes full of fear, hands that trembled as she gathered her cleaning supplies. She was nobody, nothing, a cleaner, someone so far beneath him socially that they might as well be from different planets, and she had just changed his life completely. "What's your name?" Marcus asked. His voice sounded strange, even to himself. "Elena," she said quietly. "Elena Rodriguez." "I'm so sorry, Mr. Thornhill, it won't happen again. I'll leave now." "Elena," he repeated. The name felt foreign on his tongue. "Where did you learn to play like that?" She hesitated. "My grandmother taught me. I studied music in college for a while. But that was a long time ago. That song. Did you write it?" Elena nodded, surprised that he cared. "Yes, it's called Remaining Light." Marcus walked into the room slowly. Elena instinctively took a step back. He radiated power and wealth and danger. Everything about him screamed that he was from a different world. A world that had never been kind to people like her. "Do you know who I am?" Marcus asked. "You own this apartment," Elena said. "That's all I know. My name is Marcus Thornhill. I'm a tech billionaire. I own 7 companies. I'm worth approximately $3 billion. He paused. "And tonight I made a very public challenge." Elena shook her head, not understanding. Marcus almost smiled. Almost. "I said that if anyone could play my piano in a way that truly moved me, I would marry them. About 50 people witnessed this. Several recorded it. It's probably already viral." Elena's eyes went wide. "I don't understand." "You played my piano," Marcus said simply. "You moved me, more than anyone has in years. Maybe more than anyone ever has. But I'm not—" Elena gestured at herself, at her uniform, at everything she was. "I'm nobody. I'm just a cleaner." "Clearly, you're more than that," Marcus said. He studied her carefully. His business mind was already working, already calculating. I have a proposition for you, Elena Rodriguez. But first, I need to know something. Why are you cleaning apartments at midnight instead of playing piano on a stage somewhere? The question hit Elena like a punch. All the exhaustion, all the disappointment, all the broken dreams came rushing back. Her eyes filled with tears that she refused to let fall. Because dreams don't pay for my mother's cancer treatments, she said quietly. Because my little brother needs someone to take care of him. Because the real world doesn't care how well you play piano. It only cares about money, and I don't have any. Marcus nodded slowly. He understood that. He had grown up poor, though it was so long ago now that he barely remembered what it felt like. He had clawed his way to the top by being ruthless and cold and willing to do whatever it took. He had left compassion behind a long time ago. But standing here looking at this exhausted woman who still had music inside her despite everything, Marcus felt something shift. Don't leave, he said. We need to talk. Elena wanted to run. Every instinct told her that nothing good could come from talking to Marcus Thornhill. Rich men like him didn't help people like her. They used them and discarded them. But she was so tired of fighting, so tired of surviving instead of living. So she stayed. And neither of them knew that this moment, this strange and impossible meeting, was about to change both of their lives forever. Elena stood in the massive living room, her cleaning supplies still scattered on the floor, while Marcus Thornhill stared at her with an intensity that made her want to disappear. She had made a terrible mistake by playing his piano. Now she would pay for it. That was how the world worked. People like her didn't get to touch things that belonged to people like him. Please, she said again, I need this job. I have 2 more apartments to clean tonight. If I'm late, I'll get fired. I can't afford to lose this job. Marcus held up one hand. How much does your cleaning company pay you? Elena blinked. That wasn't the question she expected. $15 an hour. And you work how many hours a week? About 60. Sometimes more. Marcus did the math in his head. $900 a week, maybe $45,000 a year before taxes. He spent more than that on shoes. Sit down, he said, gesturing to his expensive leather couch. I can't. I have to clean. I have to finish and get to. I'll pay your company for your time tonight, Marcus interrupted. Double rate. Just sit down. 5 minutes, Elena hesitated. Everything about this felt wrong. But Marcus Thornhill was clearly used to getting what he wanted. And honestly, Elena was so tired. Her feet hurt. Her back ached. She had been working for 14 hours straight. She sat down carefully on the edge of the couch as if she might damage it just by touching it. Marcus sat across from her in a matching chair. He studied her the way he studied business proposals, looking for weaknesses, looking for opportunities. Tell me about your mother. Why do you care? Elena asked. The words came out before she could stop them. She immediately regretted them. You didn't question people like Marcus Thornhill. But Marcus just smiled slightly. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who recognized honesty, even defiance. I don't care, he admitted. But I need to understand your situation. So tell me. Elena took a deep breath. My mother has stage 3 breast cancer. She's been fighting it for 2 years. The treatments cost more than our insurance covers. I have medical bills of over $200,000. My little brother Daniel, he's 16. He's smart. Really smart. He could get into a good college if we could afford to keep him in school, buy him the supplies he needs, pay for SAT prep courses. But right now he works part-time at a grocery store just to help me pay rent. And your father? Gone. He left when I was 12. Marcus nodded. A familiar story. His own father had left too, though for different reasons. What about your music education? I had a full scholarship to Manhattan School of Music, Elena said. The words hurt to say out loud. I was going to study piano performance. That was 5 years ago. I made it through 2 years before my grandmother died, and my mother got sick. I had to drop out. I had to work. Do you regret it? Elena looked at him sharply. What kind of question was that? Of course I regret it. Every single day. But I don't have the luxury of regret. I have responsibilities. What if I could solve your problems? Marcus asked. Elena laughed. It was a bitter sound. No one can solve my problems, Mr. Thornhill, unless you're offering to pay off $200,000 in medical debt and fund my brother's education. and give me enough money to quit 2 of my 3 jobs so I could possibly think about playing piano again. What if I did exactly that? The room went silent. Elena stared at him. You're joking? I don't joke, Marcus said. I made a public promise tonight. I said if anyone could play my piano in a way that moved me, I would marry them. You played my piano. You moved me. I keep my promises, Elena stood up quickly. You're crazy. I'm not marrying you. I don't even know you. Sit down, Marcus said calmly. I'm not finished. I don't care if you're finished. This is insane. I'm leaving. Elena grabbed her cleaning supplies and headed for the elevator. $300,000. Marcus called out. Elena stopped walking. That's what I'm offering, Marcus continued. $300,000. Enough to pay off your mother's medical bills and fund your brother's education and give you a cushion to restart your life. All you have to do is marry me for 1 year. Elena turned around slowly. Why would you do that? Marcus stood up and walked to his desk. He pulled out a folder and opened it. Tomorrow morning I have a meeting with the board of directors for Chen Industries. They're a family-owned company worth $5 billion. I want to acquire them. I've wanted to for 3 years. But Robert Chen, the CEO, he's old-fashioned, traditional. He believes in family values, stability. He's been reluctant to sell to me because I have a reputation as a ruthless bachelor who cares about nothing but money. So if I show up tomorrow as a married man, suddenly I'm stable, trustworthy, someone who understands the value of family. It changes the whole dynamic of the negotiation. Marcus closed the folder. I need a wife, Elena, just for appearances. Just for 1 year. After that, we divorce quietly, you get your money, and we both move on with our lives. Elena's head was spinning. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. This is insane. It's business, Marcus corrected. I have something you need, money. You have something I need. The appearance of a wife. It's a simple transaction. Marriage isn't supposed to be a transaction. Every marriage is a transaction, Marcus said coldly. People just pretend otherwise. At least I'm being honest about it. Elena wanted to say no. She wanted to walk out of this penthouse and never come back. But $300,000. That was more money than she could earn in 6 years of working 3 jobs. That was her mother's life. That was her brother's future. That was a chance to play piano again, to maybe rebuild the dreams she had buried. I don't understand why you can't just find someone else, Elena said. Someone from your world. Someone who actually fits in. Because I made a public promise, Marcus explained. And because someone recorded it and posted it online. By tomorrow morning, everyone will know about my challenge. If I show up with some society woman I suddenly decided to marry, people will know it's fake. But if I show up with you, the woman who actually won my challenge, it looks real. It looks like love at first sight. It looks like I'm capable of seeing beyond social class and choosing someone for genuine reasons. Even though you're not. Even though I'm not, Marcus agreed. But they don't need to know that. Elena sat back down on the couch. Her mind raced through possibilities. What would I have to do? Live here. Attend events with me. Act like a devoted wife in public. Smile for cameras. Make me look good. In private, we'd live separate lives. You'd have your own bedroom. Your own space. I wouldn't touch you or bother you unless it was necessary for appearances. For a whole year. 1 year. Then we file for divorce. Irreconcilable differences. You get your money and disappear. I get my company. Elena rubbed her tired eyes. This is crazy, yes or no, Elena? I need an answer tonight. The meeting is at 9 tomorrow morning. I need to think. You have 5 minutes, Marcus said. He wasn't being cruel. He was being practical. That was how he operated. Time was money. Decisions needed to be made quickly. Elena closed her eyes. She thought about her mother lying in a hospital bed, weak from chemotherapy, trying to smile when Elena visited even though she was clearly in pain. She thought about Daniel, her little brother, so smart and full of potential, working at a grocery store instead of focusing on his studies. She thought about the piano in her apartment covered with dust, silent and forgotten. She thought about the music she had just played, the feeling of her fingers on the keys, the way it had felt to be alive again, even for just a few minutes. $300,000 could change everything. But could she really marry a stranger? Could she really pretend to be in love with someone as cold and calculating as Marcus Thornhill? What if people find out it's fake? Elena asked. They won't. I'll make sure of it. We'll have a contract drawn up. Legally binding. Non-disclosure agreement. If you tell anyone the truth, you lose the money and face legal consequences. So I'd be trapped. You'd be paid, Marcus corrected. Very well paid. To do a job. It's no different than any other job. You just happen to be acting like my wife instead of cleaning apartments. Elena opened her eyes and looked at him. Really looked at him. Marcus Thornhill was handsome in a cold, sharp sort of way. Expensive suit. Expensive watch. Expensive everything. His eyes were gray and calculating. There was no warmth in them. No kindness. This was a man who had probably never loved anything or anyone in his entire life. But he was offering her a way out. A way to save her family. A way to maybe find her music again. I want to see the contract first, Elena said. I want everything in writing. Marcus nodded. He had expected this. Smart. I'll have my lawyers draw it up tonight. You can read it before you sign. And I want $400,000, not $300. Marcus raised an eyebrow. He hadn't expected that. Why 400? Because I deserve it, Elena said, surprising herself with her own boldness. You're asking me to give up a year of my life, to lie to everyone I know, to pretend to be something I'm not. That's worth more than $300,000. For the first time that night, Marcus genuinely smiled. It was small and brief, but it was real. All right. 400,000, but I have conditions too. What conditions? You'll need to look the part. New clothes, new hair, new everything. You'll need to learn how to act in my world, how to talk to wealthy people, how to attend galas and business dinners without embarrassing me. I'm not embarrassing, Elena said defensively. You're wearing a cleaning uniform, Marcus pointed out. My world is all about appearances. You'll need to transform. Can you do that? Elena thought about it. She had always hated the idea of changing herself for someone else. But this wasn't about changing who she was. It was about playing a role, acting. I can do it. Then we have a deal. Marcus extended his hand. Elena looked at his hand for a long moment. Once she shook it, there was no going back. Once she agreed to this insane plan, her life would never be the same. She thought one more time about her mother, about Daniel, about the piano. She shook his hand. Deal, she said. Marcus nodded. I'll call my lawyers now. They'll work through the night to prepare the contract. You'll come back here at 7 tomorrow morning. We'll sign the papers, get you cleaned up, and be at the meeting by 9. What about my other jobs? I have 2 more apartments to clean tonight. You're done cleaning apartments, Marcus said. Call your supervisor. Tell them you quit. I'll compensate them for the short notice. Just like that? I just quit? Just like that. You're about to become Mrs. Marcus Thornhill. Cleaning ladies don't marry billionaires. You need to start thinking differently. Start acting differently. Elena felt panic rising in her chest. Everything was moving too fast. I need to tell my mother, my brother. Tell them you got a new job, a better job. Don't tell them about the marriage until after it happens. We'll make it look spontaneous, romantic, like I swept you off your feet. They'll never believe that. They will if we do it right, Marcus said. He was already typing on his phone, sending messages to his lawyers, his assistant, his publicist. Go home, get some sleep. Be back here at 7 sharp. Don't be late, Elena stood up. Her legs felt weak. Her whole body felt weak. What had she just agreed to? Mr. Thornhill, Marcus, he interrupted. If we're going to be married, you need to call me Marcus. Marcus, Elena repeated. The name felt strange in her mouth. Are you sure about this? Are you really sure? Marcus looked up from his phone. For just a moment, Elena saw something flicker in his gray eyes. Doubt, uncertainty. But then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. I'm sure. Are you? Elena wasn't sure. She wasn't sure about anything. But she nodded anyway. I'm sure. Good, now go. I have work to do. Elena gathered her cleaning supplies and walked to the elevator. Her hand shook as she pressed the button. When the doors opened, she stepped inside and turned around. Marcus was already back at his desk, typing on his laptop, completely absorbed in his work. He had already forgotten about her. As the elevator descended, Elena looked at her reflection in the polished metal doors. She barely recognized herself. In less than an hour, her entire life had changed. Tomorrow morning, she would marry a billionaire she didn't know. She would become someone she wasn't. She would enter a world that had always seemed impossible and distant. She should have felt excited. She should have felt grateful. Instead, she just felt terrified. The elevator reached the ground floor. Elena walked out into the cool night air. The city buzzed around her. Millions of people living their normal lives, completely unaware that Elena Rodriguez, cleaning lady, was about to become Elena Thornhill, billionaire's wife. She pulled out her phone and called her supervisor at the cleaning company. "Hi, it's Elena. I need to quit." Effective immediately. "I'm sorry for the short notice." Her supervisor was confused, then angry, then eventually accepting. Elena barely heard the words. She was too busy thinking about what came next. She walked to the subway station, her cleaning supplies still in her hands. She got on the train and rode it back to Queens, back to her tiny apartment that she shared with her mother and brother. When she opened the door, Daniel was still awake, studying at the kitchen table. "You're home early," he said, looking up from his textbook. "I quit one of my jobs," Elena said. Daniel's eyes went wide. "Why?" "We need the money." "I got a better opportunity," Elena said carefully. "A much better opportunity. I can't explain it all right now, but things are going to change. For all of us." Daniel studied her face. "Are you okay?" "You look weird." Elena laughed. She couldn't help it. Weird was an understatement. "I'm fine. I'm just tired." "Is Mom asleep?" "Yeah, she had a bad day." The pain was worse. Elena's heart ached. "Did she take her medication?" "All of it." "She's sleeping now." Elena walked over and kissed Daniel on the forehead. "Keep studying. You're going to do great things, Daniel. I promise." "You're being really weird," Daniel said, but he smiled. Elena went to her tiny bedroom and closed the door. She sat on her bed and looked around at her life. Clothes piled on a chair. A small desk covered with bills. The old upright piano against the wall, silent and neglected. In less than 8 hours, she would walk into Marcus Thornhill's penthouse and sign a contract that would change everything. She would become a fake wife. A pretend person, a lie. But maybe, just maybe, she would also become someone who could help her family. Someone who could play piano again. Someone who could dream. Elena lay down on her bed, still wearing her cleaning uniform. She didn't bother changing. She was too exhausted, too overwhelmed, too scared. But underneath the fear, there was something else. Something small but persistent. Hope. For the first time in 2 years, Elena Rodriguez felt hope. She closed her eyes and thought about the music she had played tonight, the way Marcus had looked at her when she finished. The way he had offered her an impossible choice that somehow felt like the only choice she could make. Tomorrow her life would begin again. Tomorrow she would marry a stranger. Tomorrow everything would change. Elena fell asleep with her fingers moving slightly, playing invisible keys, making soundless music in the darkness of her small room. And across the city, in his massive penthouse, Marcus Thornhill sat at his desk, staring at the piano, wondering why the hell he had just offered $400,000 to marry a woman he didn't know. It was a business decision, he told himself. A smart move, a calculated risk, but deep down in a place he never acknowledged, Marcus wondered if maybe, just maybe, it was something more than that. He shook his head, dismissing the thought. There was no room for sentiment in his world, no room for doubt. He had made a decision. Now he would follow through. That was what he did. That was who he was. Marcus opened his laptop and began drafting the contract. Every clause carefully worded. Every detail precisely defined. This would be a marriage in name only. A business arrangement? Nothing more. But as he typed, he kept remembering the sound of Elena's music. The way she had played with her eyes closed, lost in something beautiful. The way she had looked at him without fear or calculation, just exhaustion and honesty. Marcus had spent his entire life surrounded by people who wanted something from him, people who smiled and lied and pretended, people who saw him as a means to an end. Elena had just wanted him to leave her alone so she could finish her job. For some reason, that intrigued him more than anything else. Marcus finished the contract at 3 a.m. He sent it to his lawyers for review. Then he walked to his bedroom, passing by the piano one more time. He stopped and put his hand on the keys, pressing down lightly, making no sound. He tried to imagine what it felt like to play the way Elena played, to feel something so strongly that you could turn it into music, but he couldn't. He had spent too many years building walls, cutting off emotions, turning himself into a machine that only understood money and power and control. Maybe that was why Elena's performance had moved him so much. Because she still had something he had lost a long time ago. Something he didn't even have a name for anymore. Marcus went to bed, but he didn't sleep much. He kept thinking about tomorrow. About the meeting with Chen Industries. About the fake marriage. About the woman in the cleaning uniform who had accidentally changed everything. At 6:30 the next morning, Marcus was showered, dressed, and ready. At 7 o'clock exactly, the elevator doors opened. Elena stood in the elevator, watching the numbers climb higher and higher. 56th floor, 57th, 58th. Each floor felt like another step away from her real life and into something that couldn't possibly be real. She had barely slept. After lying in bed for 3 hours, staring at the ceiling, she had finally gotten up at 5 in the morning and taken a long shower. She had put on her nicest clothes, a simple blue dress she usually saved for church, and brushed her hair until it shined. She wanted to look presentable. She wanted to look like someone who could possibly belong in Marcus Thornhill's world. But looking at her reflection in the elevator's polished doors, she knew she didn't belong. She looked exactly like what she was. A cleaning lady wearing a cheap dress, pretending to be someone she wasn't. The elevator reached the penthouse. The doors opened. Marcus was waiting for her. He wore a dark gray suit that probably cost more than Elena made in 3 months. His hair was perfectly styled. His expression was unreadable. He looked at Elena, his eyes scanning her from head to toe, and she felt herself shrinking under his gaze. "You're on time," he said. "Good. I'm always on time," Elena replied. Marcus gestured toward his dining room table. It was covered with papers. "The contract is ready. My lawyers finished it at 4 this morning. Read it carefully. Ask questions if you don't understand something." Elena walked to the table. The contract was thick, maybe 30 pages, filled with legal language that made her head hurt just looking at it. "I don't have a lawyer. You don't need one. I had my team make sure everything is fair, but if you want to call someone to review it, go ahead. We have about 90 minutes before we need to leave for the meeting." Elena sat down and started reading. Most of it was exactly what Marcus had described. She would live in the penthouse for 1 year. She would attend events with him. She would act as his wife in public. In exchange, she would receive $400,000 paid in full after the year was complete. There were clauses about confidentiality, about what would happen if she broke the contract, about how the divorce would be handled. But one section made her stop reading. "It says I'm not allowed to have romantic relationships with anyone else during the year." Elena said, "Correct, but you can?" Marcus shook his head. "No, neither of us can. If either one of us is caught having an affair, it invalidates the contract. It would make our marriage look fake. We need to appear completely devoted to each other. For a whole year." "It's only a year," Marcus said. "I'm sure you can manage to be celibate for 12 months. Elena felt her face flush. She hadn't been in a relationship in over 3 years. She barely had time to sleep, let alone date. But the way Marcus said it, so casually as if giving up any possibility of romance was easy and meaningless, bothered her. "What about my family?" Elena asked. "Can I see them?" "Of course. But they can't live here. You'll need to maintain the fiction that you're busy with your new life as my wife. Visit them occasionally, call them. But don't let them see too much of what's really happening." Elena thought about her mother and Daniel. How would she explain this to them? How could she possibly make them understand? "They're going to ask questions," Elena said. "They're going to wonder why I suddenly married someone I never mentioned before." "Tell them the truth," Marcus said. "Or at least a version of it. Tell them you met me while working. Tell them it was love at first sight. People believe in fairy tales, especially when those fairy tales come with money and security. My mother isn't stupid. I'm not saying she is. But she's sick. She needs treatments. You're about to be able to provide those treatments. She'll want to believe it's real because the alternative is watching you struggle. Parents always want to believe their children are happy." Elena stared at the contract. Her hands trembled slightly as she turned the pages. This was really happening. She was really about to sign away a year of her life to a man she didn't know. "Page 15, Marcus said. "That's the section about your personal allowance." Elena flipped to page 15. Her eyes went wide. "It says you'll give me $10,000 a month for personal expenses. You'll need clothes, jewelry, shoes, hair appointments." Spa treatments. Everything that makes you look like you belong in my world costs money. $10,000 a month should cover it. That's more than I make in 4 months of work. You won't be working anymore. Your only job is being my wife, and that job requires you to look perfect. Elena felt overwhelmed. This was too much. Too fast, too strange. I don't know if I can do this. Marcus sat down across from her. Elena, look at me. She forced herself to meet his eyes. I understand this is overwhelming, Marcus said. His voice was softer now, almost kind. But think about what this means. Think about your mother getting the best cancer treatment available. Think about your brother going to any college he wants. Think about you having time to play piano again, to maybe find your way back to music. All of that is possible if you sign this contract. But it's a lie, Elena whispered. Everything about it is a lie. It's a performance, Marcus corrected. No different than acting in a play. You're playing a role. That's all. And when the play is over, you get paid. Elena looked back at the contract. $400,000. She tried to imagine that much money. Tried to imagine the relief on her mother's face when Elena told her the medical bills were paid. Tried to imagine Daniel opening an acceptance letter from a good college, knowing he could actually go. She picked up the pen Marcus had set beside the contract. Where do I sign? Marcus showed her. There were 5 places that required her signature. Elena signed each one, her handwriting shaky but clear. With each signature, she felt like she was crossing a bridge that was burning behind her. No going back. No changing her mind. When she finished, Marcus signed his own name beside hers. His handwriting was sharp and precise, just like everything else about him. It's done, he said. You're officially my fiancé. We'll get married at City Hall this afternoon, right after the meeting. This afternoon? Elena's voice cracked. That's so fast. It has to be fast. We need to be legally married before the story breaks. My publicist is already preparing a press release. By tonight, everyone will know that Marcus Thornhill fell in love and got married in 24 hours. No one will believe that. You'd be surprised what people believe, Marcus said, especially when there's video proof of you playing my piano and moving me to tears. You didn't cry. I did. On the inside, Marcus stood up and collected the contract. Now we need to get you ready. Jennifer is waiting in the guest room with a stylist and a dress for you to wear to the meeting. Who's Jennifer? My assistant. You met her last night, though you probably don't remember. She's going to help you learn how to act like you belong in my world. Elena followed Marcus down a hallway. The penthouse was even bigger than she had realized. There were at least 5 bedrooms, each one probably larger than her entire apartment. Marcus opened a door to reveal a room that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel. A woman in a business suit stood beside a clothing rack filled with expensive dresses. Jennifer, this is Elena, Marcus said. Elena, Jennifer. You two have exactly 1 hour to make her look like a billionaire's wife. Can you do it? Jennifer smiled warmly. It was the first genuine smile Elena had seen since entering the penthouse. We can do anything in an hour. Trust me. Marcus nodded and left, closing the door behind him. Jennifer studied Elena carefully. Okay, first things first. That dress has to go. No offense, but it's all wrong for where we're going. Where are we going? Chen Industries. Very conservative, very traditional, very expensive. You need to look elegant but not flashy. Sophisticated but not intimidating. Like someone who could fit into high society but still has warmth and authenticity. I have no idea what that means, Elena admitted. Jennifer laughed. Don't worry. That's why I'm here. Now let's see what we're working with. She pulled several dresses from the rack. I'm guessing you're a size 6? Sometimes an 8. Perfect. Jennifer held up a cream-colored dress with simple, elegant lines. This is Chanel. Try it on. Elena had never worn anything by Chanel in her life. She took the dress into the bathroom and changed, her hands still trembling. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she almost didn't recognize herself. The dress fit perfectly, hugging her body in all the right places while still looking professional and refined. She walked back out. Jennifer's eyes lit up. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now let's do something with your hair. For the next hour, Elena sat in a chair while Jennifer and a hairstylist transformed her. They washed and conditioned her hair, then styled it into soft waves that framed her face. A makeup artist applied subtle makeup that made Elena's dark eyes stand out. Someone else worked on her nails, painting them a soft pink that matched the undertones in the dress. Elena watched all of this happening in a mirror, feeling like she was watching someone else's life. This couldn't be her. This couldn't be real. "You look beautiful," Jennifer said when they were finished. "Marcus is going to be impressed." "Marcus doesn't care what I look like," Elena said. Jennifer gave her a strange look. "He cares more than you think. He spent 3 hours last night on the phone with stylists, making sure every detail was perfect. Marcus doesn't do anything halfway." Elena didn't know what to say to that. She had assumed Marcus saw her as nothing more than a business transaction. The idea that he had spent hours planning her transformation felt strange and uncomfortable. There was a knock on the door. "5 minutes," Marcus called from the hallway. Jennifer handed Elena a pair of expensive heels and a small clutch purse. "Remember, you're not Elena the cleaning lady anymore. You're Elena Thornhill, billionaire's wife, confident, elegant, untouchable." "I'm not Elena Thornhill yet," Elena pointed out. "We're not married until this afternoon. Then you're Elena Rodriguez, soon to be Thornhill. The woman who captured Marcus's heart with a piano performance, the woman everyone is going to be talking about. You need to own that story. Make people believe it." Elena put on the heels. They made her 3 inches taller and incredibly uncomfortable. She wobbled slightly when she stood up. "You'll get used to them," Jennifer said. "Just take small steps and keep your head up. Confidence is everything." Elena took a deep breath and walked to the door. When she opened it, Marcus was waiting in the hallway. He looked at her, and for just a moment his carefully controlled expression slipped. His eyes widened slightly. His lips parted. "You look different," he said. "Is that good or bad?" "Good. Very good." Marcus cleared his throat and his mask slipped back into place. "The car's waiting downstairs, let's go." They rode the elevator down together. Elena was painfully aware of Marcus standing next to her, his cologne expensive and subtle, his presence overwhelming. In the elevator's reflection, they looked like they belonged together, like they could actually be a couple. But Elena knew the truth. This was all pretend, all performance, all lies. The car was a black Mercedes with a driver. Marcus opened the door for Elena, and she slid into the leather seats, trying to look natural even though she had never been in a car this nice in her life. Marcus sat beside her, immediately pulling out his phone and reviewing notes for the meeting. "You don't need to say much today," Marcus told her. "Just sit beside me, smile when appropriate, and let me do the talking. Robert Chen will want to meet you. Be polite, be charming, act like you're madly in love with me." "How do I do that?" Marcus looked at her. "Touch my arm occasionally. Laugh at my jokes, even if they're not funny. Look at me like I'm the only person in the room. Can you do that?" "I can try." "Don't try. Do it. Everything depends on this meeting. If Chen doesn't believe we're real, he won't sell his company to me. If he doesn't sell, you don't get your money. Understand?" Elena understood. This wasn't just about Marcus getting what he wanted. This was about her mother's cancer treatments, about Daniel's future, about her own survival. "I understand," she said. They drove through Manhattan in silence. Elena watched the city pass by, thinking about how strange it was that just 24 hours ago she had been cleaning this man's apartment. Now she was sitting beside him in a Mercedes, wearing a Chanel dress, about to help him acquire a company worth billions of dollars. Life could change so fast. One moment you were invisible. The next moment, you were essential. The car pulled up in front of a tall glass building. Chen Industries was written in gold letters above the entrance. Marcus's driver opened the door, and Elena stepped out carefully, trying not to trip in her heels. Marcus took her arm. It was the first time he had touched her, and Elena felt electricity run through her body. His hand was warm and strong and possessive. "Smile," he whispered. "You're about to meet my future business partners." They walked into the building together. Elena could feel people staring, whispering, wondering who she was. Marcus kept his hand on her arm, guiding her toward the elevators, projecting an image of a man completely devoted to the woman beside him. They rode the elevator to the 20th floor. When the doors opened, they were greeted by an assistant who led them to a conference room. Inside, 3 men in expensive suits stood beside a large table. The oldest man stepped forward. He had gray hair and kind eyes. "Marcus, good to see you again." "Robert," Marcus said warmly, shaking his hand. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I'd like you to meet someone very special. This is Elena Rodriguez, my fiancée." Robert's eyebrows shot up. "Fiancé? Marcus, I had no idea you were seeing anyone." Marcus smiled and pulled Elena closer. "Neither did I until 2 days ago. Sometimes love happens when you least expect it." Robert looked at Elena with interest. "Is that so? Tell me, Elena, how did you two meet?" Elena's heart hammered. This was it. The moment where she either pulled off the lie or destroyed everything. She looked at Marcus, then back at Robert and smiled. "I work as a cleaner," she said honestly. "I was cleaning Marcus's penthouse late one night. He has this beautiful piano and I couldn't resist playing it. He heard me and came to see who was making the music, and everything changed after that. It was the truth, just not all of it." Robert smiled. "A piano? Marcus, you don't play piano." "I don't," Marcus agreed. "But Elena does. Beautifully. She moved me in a way I didn't think was possible. I knew immediately that I wanted her in my life." Elena looked at Marcus as he spoke. He sounded so sincere, so genuine, like he actually meant every word. For a moment, she almost believed him herself. Robert studied them both carefully. "That's quite a story, so when's the wedding?" "Today," Marcus said. "This afternoon. We're going to City Hall after this meeting. When you know, you know." Robert laughed. "Well, I'll be damned." Marcus Thornhill settling down. "I never thought I'd see the day." He turned to his associates. "Gentlemen, maybe we need to reconsider our position. A man who knows what he wants and goes after it, that's someone I can do business with." The meeting lasted 2 hours. Elena sat beside Marcus the entire time, playing her role perfectly. She touched his arm. She smiled at his jokes. She looked at him like he was her whole world. And slowly, she could see Robert Chen softening, believing, trusting. By the time the meeting ended, the groundwork for the acquisition was laid. Chen Industries would be sold to Marcus's company within 6 months. Marcus had won. As they left the building, Marcus kept his arm around Elena's waist. "You did well," he murmured. "Better than I expected." "Thanks," Elena said. She felt exhausted. Playing pretend was harder than she thought. "Now comes the hard part," Marcus said as they got back in the car. "Now we get married for real." Elena looked at him. For real. But nothing about this was real. Nothing about any of it. They drove to City Hall. The ceremony was quick and impersonal. A judge read the standard vows. Marcus said, "I do." Elena said, "I do." They signed papers. It took less than 15 minutes. And just like that, Elena Rodriguez became Elena Thornhill, Mrs. Marcus Thornhill, billionaire's wife. A woman living a lie. As they left City Hall, Marcus's publicist was waiting outside with a photographer. "Just a few pictures," the publicist said, "for the press release." Marcus pulled Elena close. She could feel his heart beating steadily against her side. "Smile," he whispered. "Look happy." Elena smiled. The camera flashed. Tomorrow, her picture would be in newspapers and on websites all over the world. The cleaning lady who married a billionaire. The fairy tale come true. But as the camera captured image after image of her and Marcus, Elena felt a knot forming in her stomach. She had just sold a year of her life for $400,000. And she had no idea if she would survive it. 3 months had passed since Elena had become Mrs. Marcus Thornhill. 3 months of living in a penthouse that still didn't feel like home. 3 months of attending charity galas and business dinners where she smiled until her face hurt. 3 months of sharing space with a man who treated her like a business associate instead of a wife. Elena stood in front of the piano, her fingers resting lightly on the keys. It was 2 in the morning. Marcus was in his study, working as always. This had become her routine. During the day, she played the role of devoted wife. At night, when Marcus was busy and the penthouse was quiet, she played piano. It was the only time she felt like herself anymore. The first month had been the hardest. Elena had moved into the penthouse with a single suitcase of belongings. Marcus had shown her to a bedroom on the opposite side of the penthouse from his own. The room was beautiful, decorated in soft grays and whites with a king-sized bed and a bathroom that was bigger than her old bedroom. But it felt cold, empty, like a hotel room instead of a home. Marcus had given her a credit card with no limit and told her to buy whatever she needed. Elena had stood in designer stores surrounded by clothes that cost thousands of dollars, feeling like an imposter. But Jennifer had helped her, had taught her which brands to wear, which designers were appropriate for which occasions, how to style her hair and apply makeup like the wealthy women who surrounded them at events. Slowly, Elena had learned to look the part. But looking the part and being the part were two different things. She had visited her mother and Daniel twice in the first month. Both times she had lied. She told them Marcus was wonderful, that she was happy, that their marriage was real. Her mother had cried with joy, relieved that Elena's struggles were over. Daniel had been suspicious at first, but even he had softened when Elena paid off all their debts and set up a college fund for him. Elena had sent her mother to the best cancer treatment center in New York. The doctors were optimistic. The treatments were working. Her mother was getting stronger every day. That alone made everything worth it. All the lies, all the pretending, all the loneliness. But it was still lonely. Marcus barely spoke to her unless they were in public. He worked 18-hour days, locked in his study, making deals and building his empire. He was polite when they crossed paths in the penthouse. He always asked if she needed anything. But there was no warmth, no connection. They were strangers sharing a space. Elena pressed down on the piano keys, playing a melancholy melody she had composed last week. She called it The Cage, because that's what the penthouse felt like sometimes. A beautiful, expensive cage. You're up late. Elena jumped, startled. She turned to find Marcus standing in the doorway of the living room. He wore sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair messy from running his hands through it, his eyes tired. It was the most casual she had ever seen him. I couldn't sleep, Elena said. I hope I didn't disturb you. You didn't, I was working. Marcus walked closer to the piano. I hear you playing every night. Oh, I'm sorry. I can stop. Don't stop, Marcus interrupted. I like it. Elena looked at him in surprise. In 3 months, Marcus had never mentioned her playing. She had assumed he didn't notice, or didn't care. What was that song? Marcus asked. Something I wrote. I call it The Cage. Marcus was quiet for a moment. That's what this feels like to you? A cage? Elena hesitated. They never talked about real things. Never acknowledged the strangeness of their arrangement. But it was 2 in the morning and Marcus looked tired and human and Elena was so tired of pretending. Sometimes, she admitted. Don't you ever feel trapped? Marcus sat down on the couch. He looked out at the city lights. I've felt trapped my entire life. Money doesn't free you. It just builds better cages. It was the most honest thing he had ever said to her. Elena turned on the piano bench to face him. Why do you work so much? You have more money than you could ever spend. Why keep building more? Because it's what I'm good at, Marcus said. Because if I stop working, I have to think about other things. And I don't want to think about other things. What things? Marcus looked at her. His gray eyes were softer than usual, vulnerable. How lonely I am. How empty everything feels. How I've spent my whole life chasing success and somehow forgot to build a life worth living. Elena's breath caught. She had never expected Marcus to say something like that. To reveal something real. I'm lonely too, she whispered. Even though I'm surrounded by people at these events we go to. Even though my family is taken care of. I still feel alone. Because none of it's real, Marcus said. I'm sorry. I know I'm not an easy person to live with. I know this arrangement is hard for you. It's hard for both of us. Marcus stood up and walked to the piano. He sat down beside Elena on the bench, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Play something for me. Something happy. Elena thought for a moment, then began to play. It was a song her grandmother had taught her. A traditional Spanish melody full of life and joy. Her fingers danced across the keys and she felt Marcus relaxing beside her, his tension slowly melting away. When she finished, Marcus smiled. It was a real smile, not the calculated one he wore for business associates. "Your grandmother taught you that?" "Yes, she was from Spain originally. She used to play this song and tell me stories about her childhood in Barcelona. Tell me more about her." So Elena did. She told Marcus about her grandmother's life, about how she had immigrated to America with nothing, about how she had worked hard and saved money to buy that old upright piano for Elena, about how music had been her grandmother's way of keeping her culture alive. Marcus listened to everything. Really listened. And then he started talking too. He told Elena about his own childhood, about growing up poor with an alcoholic father who left when Marcus was 8, about how his mother had worked 3 jobs to keep them fed, about how Marcus had sworn to himself that he would never be poor again, never be helpless again, never need anyone. "But you ended up just as alone as you were then," Elena said softly. Marcus nodded. "Success doesn't fix the broken parts inside you. It just hides them better." They talked until 4 in the morning, about their pasts, their fears, their regrets. It was the first real conversation they had ever had, and when they finally said goodnight and went to their separate bedrooms, Elena felt something shift between them. Maybe they could be more than business partners. Maybe they could be friends. Over the next few weeks, those late-night conversations became a routine. Marcus would finish working around 2 in the morning and find Elena at the piano. They would talk for hours about everything and nothing. Marcus told her about his business deals. Elena told him about the piano pieces she was composing. Marcus asked her to teach him about music. Elena asked him to teach her about business. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. Marcus started coming home earlier from work. He would have dinner with Elena instead of eating alone in his study. They would watch movies together, argue about which ones were best, laugh at the bad ones. Marcus showed Elena his favorite spots in the city, places he hadn't visited in years because he had been too busy working. Elena took Marcus to her favorite places in Queens, small restaurants and parks where regular people lived normal lives. One day, Marcus came home with a surprise. He led Elena to the guest bedroom she had first gotten ready in, the one Jennifer had used as a styling room. Inside, the furniture had been removed. In its place was a beautiful room with soundproofed walls, professional recording equipment, and 2 pianos. One was an electric keyboard for composing. The other was an upright acoustic piano. "Your own music studio," Marcus said, "so you can play whenever you want without worrying about disturbing anyone." Elena stared at the room, tears forming in her eyes. "You did this for me?" "You gave up your life for a year to help me," Marcus said quietly. "The least I can do is help you find your music again." Elena threw her arms around Marcus without thinking. He stiffened at first, surprised, but then slowly his arms came around her, holding her gently. It was the first time they had really touched since their wedding day, and Elena felt warmth spread through her entire body. She pulled back quickly, embarrassed. "Sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's okay," Marcus said. His voice was rough. "You don't have to apologize." That night, Elena played in her new studio for hours. She composed 3 new songs. She felt inspired and alive and grateful in a way she hadn't felt in years. And Marcus sat in his study, pretending to work, but really just listening to the music that drifted through the walls. Listening to Elena being happy, and feeling something dangerous growing in his chest, something he had promised himself he would never feel. He was starting to care about her. Really care. The next month passed in a blur of warmth and laughter and unexpected happiness. Marcus brought Elena coffee every morning the way she liked it, with cream and 2 sugars. Elena made sure Marcus actually took breaks from work and ate real meals. They went to a concert at Carnegie Hall and Marcus watched Elena's face light up with joy as she listened to the orchestra. Elena convinced Marcus to attend his niece's birthday party, helping him reconnect with his sister after 5 years of barely speaking. They still attended business events together, but now the performance felt less like acting. When Elena touched Marcus's arm, she wanted to. When Marcus looked at her with affection, it wasn't entirely fake. The lines were blurring. The arrangement was becoming something else, but neither of them acknowledged it. Both of them were too afraid to name what was happening between them. Then everything fell apart in a single night. They were at a charity gala, one of the biggest events of the year. Elena wore a stunning red dress. Marcus wore his usual impeccable suit. They danced together, and for once Elena wasn't thinking about the contract or the lies or the arrangement. She was just thinking about how much she had come to care for this complicated, damaged, surprisingly kind man. "You look beautiful tonight," Marcus murmured as they danced. "You always say that at these events," Elena teased. "I know, but tonight I mean it more than usual." Elena looked up at him. Marcus was staring at her with an intensity that made her heart race. For a moment she thought he might kiss her. She wanted him to kiss her. When had that happened? When had this fake marriage started to feel real? But then a woman's voice cut through the moment like a knife. "Marcus, darling." "There you are." Elena turned to see a stunning blonde woman in a designer gown walking toward them. She had the kind of beauty that came from expensive surgeries and personal trainers and a lifetime of privilege. She looked at Marcus like she owned him. Marcus's expression went cold and closed off. "Vanessa." "It's been too long," Vanessa said. She completely ignored Elena, her eyes fixed on Marcus. "I heard you got married. I had to come see for myself." "Vanessa, this is my wife, Elena," Marcus said stiffly. Vanessa finally looked at Elena. Her smile was sharp and cruel. "Oh yes, the cleaning lady. The whole city is talking about your little fairy tale." Elena felt like she had been slapped. "I'm sorry, who are you?" "I'm Marcus's ex-fiancée," Vanessa said sweetly. "We were together for 5 years. We were going to get married, until I found out he cared more about his companies than he did about me. I left him. Best decision I ever made." "Vanessa, you need to leave," Marcus said. "I don't think so," Vanessa replied. She pulled out her phone and held it up so both Marcus and Elena could see the screen. It showed a photograph of the contract they had signed. The marriage contract. The one that proved their entire relationship was fake. "I have friends on your legal team," Vanessa said. "Friends who owe me favors. They sent me this. Your whole marriage is a sham, isn't it? A business deal. You married her to look stable and trustworthy for the Chen acquisition. How deliciously cold even for you, Marcus." Elena's blood ran cold. If Vanessa released that contract, everything would fall apart. Marcus's business deal. Elena's money. Her mother's treatments, everything. "What do you want?" Marcus asked. His voice was deadly quiet. "I want you back," Vanessa said simply. "I want you to divorce the help and marry someone actually worthy of you. Someone from your world. I've changed, Marcus. I'm ready to be the wife you need now. Think about it. We're perfect together. We always were." "No." Vanessa blinked. "No, no," Marcus repeated. "I don't want you. I never loved you. You were just another acquisition, another status symbol. And you're right about why I married Elena. It was a business deal, but somewhere along the way it became something more. Something real. Something I don't want to lose." Elena's heart stopped. Was he telling the truth? Or was this just another performance? Vanessa laughed coldly. "Please. You don't know how to love, Marcus. That's why I left you. You're a machine. All you care about is money and power." "I used to be," Marcus said. He turned to Elena. "But she changed me. She showed me there's more to life than just winning, than just accumulating wealth. She reminded me what it feels like to be human." "How sweet," Vanessa sneered. "Too bad it's all going to come crashing down when I send this contract to every news outlet in the city." "You won't," Marcus said calmly. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because if you do, I'll release information about your family's company. Information about your father's illegal business dealings that I've been sitting on for 3 years. Information that would destroy your family's reputation and possibly land your father in prison. Your choice, Vanessa. Walk away now and we all keep our secrets. Or attack me and watch your entire world burn." Vanessa's face went white. "You're bluffing. Try me." They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Vanessa turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Marcus turned to Elena. "We need to leave now." They didn't speak on the drive home. Elena's mind raced. Everything Marcus had said, was any of it true? Did he actually care about her? Or had he just said what he needed to say to protect the business deal? When they got back to the penthouse, Elena went straight to her bedroom. She needed space, needed time to think. But Marcus followed her. "Elena, wait." She turned around. "What you said to Vanessa, was any of it real?" Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw the truth in his eyes before he even spoke. All of it, he said quietly. I didn't plan for this to happen. I didn't want it to happen. But somewhere over the last 3 months, I fell in love with you. Elena's breath caught. You're just saying that because... I'm saying it because it's true, Marcus interrupted. And I understand if you don't feel the same way. I know this started as a business arrangement. I know I've been cold and distant. I know I'm not easy to love. But Elena, you make me want to be better. You make me feel things I didn't think I was capable of feeling anymore. Elena stared at him. 3 months ago, she would have walked away. 3 months ago, she had hated the idea of being trapped in a fake marriage with a cold billionaire. But now she realized she had fallen for him too. Somewhere between the late-night conversations and the morning coffee and the way he listened when she played piano. Somewhere between his rare smiles and his quiet kindness and the way he had helped her reconnect with her music. I love you too, she whispered. Marcus closed the distance between them in 2 steps. He cupped her face in his hands. Can I kiss you? Elena nodded. Marcus kissed her softly, carefully like she was something precious. Elena melted into him, wrapping her arms around his neck, feeling like she was finally home. When they pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. What does this mean for the contract? Elena asked. I don't care about the contract, Marcus said. I don't care about the business deal. I only care about you, about us, about making this real. It already is real, Elena said. It has been for a while. We were just too afraid to admit it. Marcus pulled her close, holding her like he was afraid she might disappear. I know we still have 9 months left on the contract, but I don't want you to stay because of an agreement. I want you to stay because you want to. I want to, Elena said. But Marcus, we need to be honest with each other. No more secrets. No more pretending. If we're going to do this for real, it has to be real. Agreed, Marcus said. No more secrets. They spent that night talking. Really talking. About their fears and their hopes and what they wanted their future to look like. They fell asleep together in Elena's bed, fully clothed, holding each other. For the first time since their arrangement began, Elena felt truly happy. But happiness, as she would soon learn, was fragile. And the threat Vanessa posed wasn't over, not by a long shot. The next morning, Marcus's phone rang at 6 a.m. It was his lawyer. The board of directors had found out about the marriage contract. They were threatening to block the Chen Industries acquisition unless Marcus could prove his marriage was legitimate. Their perfect little world was about to face its biggest test yet. Marcus sat at his desk, staring at his phone. The call from his lawyer had ended 5 minutes ago, but he still couldn't move. Couldn't think. Everything he had worked for was falling apart. Elena appeared in the doorway of his study. She wore one of his t-shirts and her hair was messy from sleep. She looked beautiful and worried. What's wrong? The board found out about the contract, Marcus said flatly. I don't know how. Maybe Vanessa found a way to leak it anyway. Maybe someone else did. It doesn't matter. They know. And they're using it as ammunition to block the Chen acquisition. Elena's face went pale. What does that mean? It means the board is calling for an emergency meeting this afternoon. They're going to force me to prove that our marriage is real. And if I can't, they'll vote to remove me as CEO and kill the deal. But you own the company. I own 51%, Marcus explained. The other 49% is split among various investors and board members. If they unite against me, they can make my life hell. They can tie up the company in lawsuits. They can destroy shareholder value. They can ruin everything I've built. Elena walked into the room and knelt beside his chair. She took his hands in hers. Then we tell them the truth. The truth? That yes, our marriage started as a business arrangement, but it became real. We fell in love, that's not a lie. Marcus looked at her. They won't believe it. They'll say we're just trying to salvage the situation. Then we make them believe it, Elena said. Marcus, I'm not going to let them destroy you, not after everything we've been through. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is, Elena said firmly. I'm your wife. For real now. And that means we fight together. Marcus pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I got you into this mess. You gave me my life back, Elena whispered. You gave my mother a chance to survive. You gave my brother a future. You helped me find my music again. And somehow, impossibly, you made me fall in love with you. I'm not sorry about any of it." They held each other for a long moment. Then Marcus pulled back. "I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. Tell me." "We go into that board meeting and we lay everything out. The contract, the arrangement, all of it. And then we prove to them that what we have now is real." "How do we prove that?" Marcus thought for a moment. "The piano. That's where this all started. That's what made me see you differently. If you play for them the way you played for me that first night, they'll understand." Elena shook her head. "Marcus, I can't. Not in front of a room full of hostile strangers." "Yes, you can," Marcus said. "You're the bravest person I know. You've been playing a role for 3 months in front of hundreds of people. You can do this." Elena wanted to say no, wanted to run and hide and pretend this wasn't happening. But she looked at Marcus's face, saw the fear and hope in his eyes, and she knew she couldn't abandon him. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it." The board meeting was scheduled for 3 o'clock. Marcus spent the morning preparing his presentation, gathering evidence of how the Chen acquisition would benefit the company. Elena spent the morning in her music studio, practicing, trying to calm her nerves. At 2:30, Jennifer came to help Elena get ready. She wore a simple black dress, elegant but not flashy, professional but still herself. "You look perfect," Jennifer said. "Are you nervous?" "Terrified," Elena admitted. "Don't be. I've watched you these past 3 months. You're stronger than you think." Marcus was waiting by the elevator. He wore his usual impeccable suit, but Elena could see the tension in his shoulders. She took his hand and squeezed it. "Whatever happens, we face it together," she said. Marcus nodded. Together. They rode down to the executive conference room in silence. When the elevator doors opened, Elena could hear voices. Angry voices. The board members were already arguing. Marcus and Elena walked into the conference room. 15 people sat around a massive table. Most of them were older men in expensive suits. A few women. All of them looked at Elena with suspicion and judgment. At the head of the table sat David Morrison, the chairman of the board. He was 70 years old, had been with the company since Marcus founded it, and had always been supportive. Until now. "Marcus," David said coldly, "and Mrs. Thornhill, thank you for joining us." "I'm sorry to call this emergency meeting," Marcus said, sitting down. Elena sat beside him. "But I understand there are concerns about my recent marriage." "Concerns?" said a woman named Patricia. "We have proof that your marriage is a fraud, a business arrangement designed to manipulate Robert Chen into selling his company." "That's true," Marcus said calmly. The room exploded. Board members shouted over each other. Elena gripped Marcus's hand under the table. "However," Marcus continued, raising his voice, "that's not the whole truth." The room quieted slightly. Marcus stood up. "Yes, I offered Elena Rodriguez a contract. Yes, I married her to improve my image for the Chen acquisition. That was wrong. That was manipulative. That was me being the cold, calculating person I've always been. But something unexpected happened." He looked at Elena. "I fell in love with her. Really, genuinely fell in love. For the first time in my life, I found someone who made me want to be better. Someone who showed me that success without connection is just emptiness. Someone who reminded me why I started this company in the first place. Not to accumulate wealth, but to build something meaningful." "That's a lovely speech," David said. "But how do we know any of it's true?" "Because I'm willing to walk away," Marcus said. "If you want my resignation, you can have it. If you want to block the Chen acquisition, go ahead. If you want to tear up every contract and agreement, I won't fight you. But I won't let you attack Elena. She did nothing wrong. She took a deal I offered because she needed to save her family, and then she showed me more grace and kindness than I deserved." "Marcus," Elena whispered, "what are you doing?" "The right thing," Marcus replied. "For once in my life." David studied Marcus carefully. "You'd really walk away? From the company you built? From everything you've worked for? Yes, Marcus said without hesitation, because I finally found something more important than business. And I'm not going to sacrifice it for a company. Not even this one. Patricia laughed bitterly. You expect us to believe that? Marcus Thornhill, choosing love over money. I've known you for 10 years. This is just another manipulation. Then test me, Marcus challenged. Ask me anything. Ask Elena anything. We'll tell you the truth. All of it. For the next hour, the board members questioned them. They asked about the contract, about how they met, about their relationship. Marcus and Elena answered every question honestly. Sometimes the truth was embarrassing. Sometimes it was painful. But they didn't hide anything. Finally, David raised his hand. Enough. I have one final question. Elena, not Marcus. You. Elena sat up straighter. Yes? Do you love him? David asked. Really love him? Not the contract, not the money. Do you love Marcus Thornhill, the person with all his flaws and coldness and complicated history? Elena looked at Marcus. At this brilliant, damaged, surprisingly tender man who had changed her life in ways she never expected. Yes, she said. I love him. Not because of what he can give me, but because of who he is. He's not as cold as he pretends to be. He's lonely and scared and trying so hard to protect himself from getting hurt. But underneath all that armor, he's kind. He listens when I talk. He helped my family without asking for anything in return. He gave me a music studio just to see me smile. He's learning to be vulnerable, to let people in, to believe that maybe he's worthy of love. How could I not love him? The room was silent. David stood up. I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor of accepting Marcus and Elena's marriage as legitimate and moving forward with the Chen acquisition, raise your hands. Elena held her breath. David raised his hand. Then Jennifer, who sat in as corporate secretary. Then 3 other board members. Then 5 more. Patricia kept her hand down. So did 2 others. But it didn't matter. 10 votes in favor. 5 against. Marcus had won. But instead of looking relieved, Marcus shook his head. I appreciate the vote of confidence. But I need to say something else. David frowned. Marcus, you won. Take the victory and sit down. I need you all to hear this, Marcus insisted. He turned to look at each board member. For years, I've run this company like a tyrant. I've made decisions without consultation. I've prioritized profit over people. I've been cold and ruthless and impossible to work with. That changes today. If you're willing to keep me as CEO, I promise to do better. To listen more. To value the people in this company, not just the bottom line. And if any of you feel like I'm slipping back into my old ways, you have permission to call me out. David's stern expression softened slightly. That's quite a commitment. It's necessary, Marcus said. Elena taught me that. Success means nothing if you achieve it by hurting everyone around you. Patricia stood up. I didn't vote in your favor, but I'll be watching. If you really can change, if you really can be the leader this company needs, then maybe I was wrong about you. She walked out. The other board members who had voted against Marcus followed her. When the room cleared, only Marcus, Elena, David, and Jennifer remained. David walked over and shook Marcus's hand. I've known you since you were 25 years old. I've watched you build this company from nothing, but I've also watched you become more isolated and bitter every year. Today was the first time I saw the man you could have been all along. Don't lose that. I won't, Marcus promised. After David and Jennifer left, Marcus turned to Elena. He pulled her into his arms and held her tight. Thank you. For what? For saving me, in every possible way. Elena pulled back to look at him. What about the Chen acquisition? Do you still want it? Marcus thought for a moment. Honestly, I'm not sure anymore. I thought acquiring his company would prove something, would validate me somehow. But I don't need that validation anymore. What I need is right here. We should still do it, Elena said, but do it differently. Partner with Chen instead of acquiring him. Build something together instead of just taking over. That seems more like who you want to be now. Marcus smiled. When did you get so smart about business? I've been paying attention, Elena said. Turns out I'm good at more than just piano. They left the conference room hand in hand, but as they walked to the elevator, Marcus stopped. There's one more thing I need to do. What? The contract. We need to tear it up. Marcus pulled out his phone and called his lawyer. Send me a digital copy of the marriage contract Elena and I signed. I need it immediately. While they waited for the file, Marcus led Elena back to the penthouse. When they arrived, the file was already in his email. Marcus opened it on his laptop and connected his laptop to a large screen on the wall. What are you doing? Elena asked. This, Marcus said. He clicked delete. The contract disappeared from the screen. It's gone. No more agreement. No more transaction. No more timeline. You're free to leave whenever you want. No penalty. No loss of money. Marcus, we had a deal. I don't want a deal with you, Marcus interrupted. I want a real marriage. One where you stay because you choose to, not because you're obligated to. And if you decide to leave tomorrow, you still get the $400,000. I'll transfer it to your account right now. I'm not leaving, Elena said. But you could, and you should have that choice. Elena walked over and closed the laptop. I choose you, not the money. Not the contract, just you. Marcus kissed her, not the careful, controlled kiss from before, but a real kiss, full of passion and relief and hope. When they finally pulled apart, Marcus rested his forehead against Elena's. Marry me again. For real this time. Not at City Hall with strangers, but surrounded by people who actually love us. Your family, my sister, people who matter. We're already married. Then let me ask you properly. Marcus got down on one knee. Elena Rodriguez Thornhill, I love you. I love your strength and your kindness and your music and your courage. I love how you see the best in people even when they don't deserve it. I love how you made me believe I could be better. Will you stay married to me? Not because of a contract, but because we're choosing each other every single day? Elena's eyes filled with tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Marcus stood up and kissed her again. And for the first time in his life, he felt complete. 6 months later, Elena stood backstage at a small concert hall. Her hands shook as she adjusted her dress. Tonight was her first public performance in 6 years. She was going to play her original compositions for an audience of 200 people. She was terrified. But then she felt familiar arms wrap around her from behind. Marcus kissed the top of her head. You're going to be amazing. What if I mess up? Then you'll be human. And that's more beautiful than perfection anyway. Elena turned in his arms. Marcus looked different now. Still handsome. Still successful. But softer somehow, happier. He smiled more. Laughed more. He had started mentoring young entrepreneurs instead of just crushing them. He had donated millions to arts programs for underprivileged kids. He had helped Elena start a foundation that provided free piano lessons to children in Queens. The Chen acquisition had gone through, but as a partnership instead of a takeover. Robert Chen had been so impressed by Marcus's transformation that they had become genuine friends. But the biggest change was in how Marcus lived his life. He left work at 6 every evening to have dinner with Elena. They spent weekends exploring the city, attending concerts, visiting Elena's family. Marcus had reconciled with his sister and now saw his niece every week. He had even started taking piano lessons from Elena, though he admitted he was terrible at it. 5 minutes, a stage manager called. Elena took a deep breath. In the audience were her mother, who was now in remission, her brother Daniel, who had just been accepted to Columbia University, Marcus's sister and niece, Jennifer, David from the board. Even Robert Chen had come. But most importantly, Marcus would be in the front row, watching her, supporting her, loving her. I'm glad I played your piano that night, Elena said. Marcus smiled. I'm glad I made that stupid challenge. Best business decision I ever made. Even if it wasn't really about business at all. What was it about? Fate, Marcus said. Or luck. Or maybe just two lonely people finding each other at exactly the right moment. Elena kissed him one more time. Then she walked onto the stage. The lights were bright. The audience was quiet. Elena sat at the beautiful grand piano in the center of the stage. She looked out and found Marcus in the front row. He gave her an encouraging nod. Elena placed her fingers on the keys, and she began to play The music that filled the hall was everything she felt. Joy and pain and hope and love and all the beautiful complexity of being human. She played her story. Her journey from cleaning lady to billionaire's wife to a woman who had finally found herself. When she finished, the audience erupted in applause. People stood up. Some were crying. Elena looked at Marcus and saw tears streaming down his face. After the performance, Marcus met her backstage. "You were incredible. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have," Marcus said. "You've always had this gift. I just helped you remember it." They walked out of the concert hall hand in hand. The city stretched before them, full of possibilities. Full of life. "What do you want to do now?" Elena asked. "Go home," Marcus said. "Play piano until 2 in the morning. Talk about everything and nothing. Fall asleep holding you. Wake up and do it all again tomorrow." That sounds perfect. And it was perfect. Not because their lives were easy or simple or without challenges, but because they had chosen each other. Because they had taken a fake marriage and turned it into something real. Because they had found love in the most unexpected place. As they rode home in the car, Elena thought about the contract that no longer existed. About the challenge that had started everything. About the piano that had brought them together. "Marcus?" She said. "Yes?" "If you could go back and change anything, would you?" Marcus thought for a moment. "I'd like to say I would have done everything differently. Been kinder from the start. More open, more honest. But if I had been different, maybe we wouldn't have ended up here. Maybe you wouldn't have played my piano that night. Maybe I wouldn't have been moved enough to make that offer. So no, I wouldn't change anything. Not even the part where you were kind of a jerk?" Marcus laughed. "Not even that. Because all of it led to us." Elena rested her head on his shoulder. "I love you, Marcus Thornhill. I love you too, Elena Thornhill. My wife, my partner, my favorite musician. The woman who taught me that the best things in life can't be bought or controlled or planned. They just happen, when you least expect them." And as they drove through the city, heading home to their penthouse that now felt warm and full of life and love, both of them knew that they had found something rare, something precious. They had found each other, and that was worth more than all the money in the world. The famous Bosendorfer piano that had started everything still sat in their living room, but it wasn't a symbol of wealth or status anymore. It was a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful music comes from the most unexpected places, that sometimes you have to take a risk to find what you're really looking for, that sometimes love shows up wearing a cleaning uniform and changes your life forever. Every night Elena still played piano at 2 in the morning. And every night Marcus still came to listen. And sometimes he would sit beside her on the bench and she would teach him simple melodies and they would laugh when he hit the wrong notes, and it would be perfect. Because perfect wasn't about flawless performances or massive fortunes or fairy tale endings. Perfect was choosing each other. Every single day, in the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of a life built together. And that was the truest music of all.